Well, I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and today I'm going to be talking about Live Phish Volume 4. I'm going to discuss my thoughts on this absolutely amazing release, and then I'm going to rank this release compared to the other three Live Phish volumes, and then continue on until I'm done with Phish. But yeah, this is a 3-disc set, the fourth release in their Live Phish series from back in the early 2000s when it started. This is another 2000 show. Volume 3 was also a 2000 show, a really, really good 2000 show from about 3 months later. This is June 14th, 2000, and it is in Japan. So we have an overseas show. And the shows in Japan were apparently, at least at this point in their career, much smaller, much more intimate, and had an audience that was much more willing to not say a word until the song ended, at which point they would explode with applause. And Phish took advantage of this in this show and really went out there and was just like, we can slow simmer so many things because we don't have to worry about a restless audience. We can do intricate little finely tuned, detailed things because they're paying attention and they're going to appreciate it. And so that's kind of what they did in the entire show. And yes, there were moments of high energy. There's a llama that drops. The Split Open and Melt has some good energy. Opens up with a pretty ferocious Carini. But the jams in here are at times ambient jams. There's a lot of Pink Floyd space proggy energy. Some excellent keyboard work by Page. The first time I heard this show, some of the songs I was just like, man, there is a complete lack of energy in some of these songs. And then I realized, no, that's they're just totally taking their time. They drop a gumbo in the first set, and it almost feels like their intention in all the jams is to make musical gumbo and to let the groove and the vibe sit and simmer for as long as possible. They don't have 3 or 4 hours to do it in the case of real gumbo, but they let things simmer and just kind of sit there while they fine tune. It is a really phenomenal show, but of a completely different sort of musical nature than kind of the stuff they were doing, all throughout the 90s. Kind of a little bit of what they were doing with cow funk, but these are not cow funky jams that just kind of ride a groove. These are definitely much more ambient, almost again, going to the floating in the ocean metaphor that I used in the last one. Just kind of everybody's just there in the same water tank, just trying to make it interesting as they float. Just really, really good stuff. The first CD contains all of set 1, 8 songs, good set list, zero complaints, opens up with a really ferocious Carini, nice, good energy, just nice tray attacking, good groove set up by the rhythm section during the jam, nice just space metal proggy jam. We get at the curtain, Cities, right into Cities. The Cities is the one, the first time I heard it. In fact, the first couple of times I heard it, I was like, this is just really a slow Cities. But then as Trey continues to sing his sort of space between the words feels really, really a lot like David Byrne and is kind of selling the song in a really good way. And then they get to the middle jam and it's just it's just there. You just sit back and relax on it and enjoy just its existence. And then I've come to absolutely love the absolutely slow, almost nothing happens nature of this song. Even the closing jam isn't really a closing jam as much as them just we like playing this groove and I hope you enjoy this groove. We hope you enjoy it with us. That goes into a fantastic gumbo. A gumbo that I really wish could have simmered for 3 or 4 hours. As we come out of the vocals, we get your spirited, kind of lively Trey energy jam that eventually just goes off into prog, Pink Floyd, keyboard awash space, and it just simmers there and simmers there and simmers there. It is so good. You know, Trey's kind of dancing around very discreetly. Eventually, the energy starts to pick up. Mike and John start picking up the energy. We get some what is obviously like you can, if you know you're going into llama, you can truly feel okay. They're picking up the energy to try to race into llama. They don't really race into llama as much as they build up the energy and then kind of jump into llama. Segways that seem to race in. This one stops and like jumps in. But it's just the whole thing is like over 12 minutes. It is just like, it is what musical gumbo should sound like. Like you're letting it just sit there and you're letting it simmer. But after a while, you can like, you appreciate the smells coming out of it. You appreciate the aroma. You can feel the flavor just seeping into everything. And you're just like, then you finally take your bite and it's like explosive like the llama is. The llama is the bite of gumbo after you've been letting it like simmer and sit for hours and hours. Really good llama. I think Paige kind of out solos Trey in the solo section. Trey's definitely, there's like a darker energy in his solo. Doesn't really reach like a llama-esque peak, but a really solid llama. We get a fee, we get a heavy things, and then we close out with a split open and melt. That's a pretty nice, typical, you know, we're in the kind of typical split open and melt category of jamming. In the beginning, when they go into the jam initially, it almost feels like there's this like inertia, like this something pulling them down to a point of like, hey, let's go back to that area where we're just kind of floating there and nothing's happening. And it feels like there's this like musical fight. And eventually the band overcomes it and we build back up and we get some weirdness. We get some sort of like what to be expected in the split open and melt, like weird, you know, deviations and rhythmic patterns and detours, but nothing out there, nothing too like fantastic, but a really, really, really solid split open and melt to close a really fantastic first set. Set 2 opens up with a back on the train, really long jammed out back on the train. It's like 13 plus minutes long. The solo, the jam section is just, it's the back on the train, just it's that rhythm just over and over. You're just riding that train and everybody's just in that pocket and they're feeling good, not really going anywhere, but everybody's doing really, really tasty stuff. You're on a train, right? You're on the tracks. You know where you're heading. Rhythmically, there are no detours or anything unexpected. But while you're on the train, the conversation is just, it's involved, it's maybe a little delicate, but it's intriguing and you're with it the entire time. Then we go into a twist. I have to admit at first, the twist always seems like it's like they're not into it, or again, it feels a little too slow, but then that's been the theme of the show, so I'm with it. We get a really nice ambient jam in the middle of twist that just kind of goes on and on and on and on, and then we get a jam after it that goes on and on and on and on, and these jams are just ambient and they're spacey and they're out there there's so much going on here. There's no way I can remember all of these things that are happening in this. But yeah, it's just great. Yeah, it's just a floating space prog twist coda that's absolutely fantastic. And then at one point, it just goes on. It's like an 18-minute version of Twist. And then after that, Twist ends. They like completely like finish the song. This is not, some people have said this is a 35-minute twist. It's not a 35-minute twist. Like they wrap up the song after what is a monster 18-minute twist. They end it and almost immediately Paige starts like some weird keyboard sounds that remind me of the intro to the Steve Miller Band's that Fly Like an Eagle album before they, whatever that's called, that before they go into Fly Like an Eagle, that weird intro, the woo, woo, spacey thing, kind of sounds like that. And then that slowly builds back up into a full-on other jam that is definitely completely separate from Twist. It just goes on and on. There's definite Pink Floyd vibes. There's sort of, again, an on-the-run space vibe to this, like just kind of this steady rhythm that's kind of accelerating and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We go into a really nice groove. There's an ambient nightmare phase in the middle of this where it just seems like you're having some weird ambient nightmare where there's all kinds of noises. Yeah, there's Trey drops some feedback loops. No, that's in the next jam. Trey eventually, as they start getting up out of the jam, Trey starts playing this nice little melody on the guitar that he's just kind of repeating, and they kind of dance around with his melody for a little while before they kind of chug their way into a walk away. And it's definitely another really laid back, version of a song. Like you compare this walk away to like that tweezer walk away from Dallas 94 when they're just like charging for 67 minutes. You know, this is them simmering for that length of time. And the glide into walk away is definitely nowhere near as ferocious, but it's a solid walk away. Page is doing a good job. Walk away ends. And of course, they go into a jam after this. We go into full on meltdown, ambient, fireside type vibe. There's this little percussion pattern that seems to be, might be a loop. Somebody hit a loop. I don't know, but there's this percussion pattern that's kind of in the background that kind of reminds me of the transition from Behind the Lines to Duchess, or the beginning of Duchess, I guess, in Genesis. And then, yeah, and that kind of just simmers for a while, and eventually they drop right into 2001. And it is in 2001 where Trey probably spends more time soloing in this set than in any other set. Like, he's not, again, like leading a solo charge, but he is just nonstop playing as they set this thing up. It is just like, finally, he's getting it out of his system. And because of that, this is a nice 14-minute 2001 to close out a really, really spectacular second set. Like, just what we're talking, epic jamming back on the train, the straightforward epic jam and twist, epic jam after twist, epic jam after walk away. And then 2001 is just stretched out and spacey and just, exactly what you want out of a 2001. Then for the encore, 2001 is on disc 3. It's the first song in disc 3. For an encore, you get Sleep, and then you get a nice squirming coil. So an absolutely fantastic show. Like, it is not high energy. The band is attacking. They're all over the place. Crazy detours. How did they get here? Trey just going off at a million miles per hour. That's not what this is. This is full band, collective improvisation, ambient times, taking their time, spacey, proggy, Pink Floydy, letting things just simmer. It is just like one of the best experiences you can have with Phish, especially because I think the more you listen to this, the more those finer little details pop out. Like, oh, Fishman obviously is taking control here. I didn't notice that Mike was doing this, and now we're off here. Just an absolutely perfect show. Where would I rank it? It's right there. It's number 1 so far, and I really, really liked that last one that was released. I've really liked all of these, to be honest with you. They have done an excellent job in the first 4 in releasing these, but this is my favorite. It's just such a great show. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got to say about this Live Phish Volume 4 from Japan, June 2000. Yeah, it's pretty spectacular release. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours. Subscribe, like, comment, share, go listen to music. Go listen to this second set, people. It's fantastic. Peace. Talk to you later. So is the first set.